um, the topic of this video is dating in Cartagena safe? But really, this applies to Colombia in general. So the final conclusion is it's always been safe for me. I've never had a problem. I've never been robbed. I've never, I guess if they don't use a gun or a knife, it's not robbery, it's theft. I've never been the victim of theft while overseas dating chicks. Actually, I've never been robbed overseas. I've never been the victim of theft overseas. I mean, not that I know of. I suppose people try to get you to pay a little higher price or something, but that happens to everyone. It's not that serious big deal. So the conclusion is, for at least for me, and I'm going to go through some of the things that I believe have established why I haven't been robbed and I haven't been a victim, and some different ways to combat it. So I never meet girls in bars. And 20 years ago, I used to go to bars. I used to go out to clubs and that type of stuff. But it was just restricted to Brazil and Rio in particular. Although a little bit in Salvador and just a little bit in Fortaleza long ago. And of course, recently I was in Fortaleza for 6 months. But that was a long time ago. I don't do it anymore. I don't like to go out and drink and the screaming loud noise and etc. And in many ways, I think it's kind of the root of all evil. It's where all the problems start, as it were, is when you put yourself in those high-risk situations. You're out at night, you're meeting people anonymously, you've never seen them, they've never seen you, and a lot of times they are choosing you, you're not choosing them. But again, I'll start with the conclusion, and that is that I'm talking about Colombia, which is 9 months of dating in Barranquilla, 4 in Cartagena just recently, and about a month in Medellin, a little over a month in Medellin. And that doesn't include Brazil, although I could include Brazil because nothing happened there. I could include the Dominican Republic because nothing happened there. I could include Kenya. I could include Tunisia. And I was only in Tunisia for 2 weeks, by the way. In Kenya for a little over 2 months. But so I think the fact that I don't go out into these places like that cuts off a lot of the problems. Now, of course, everyone likes to. People like to go to the bars and the nightlife and do all that. And so I'm not going to touch directly on that right now. I mean, people say, don't watch your drink. Well, sure. Yeah, I got you. Watch your drink. But it also applies in the situation that with me where, so yeah, of course you want to watch your drink. But you also want to do that when you bring some girl home to your apartment. So let's focus first on solutions. I have strategy and solutions tactics. Strategy is sort of a general principle, whereas tactics are specific steps you can take to implement a general idea, a general strategy, right? Now, what is this business here? I don't know how to get rid of that. Okay, so A, tracing, tracking. You want to broadcast to them the notion that they are going to be traceable. They are going to be trackable. Because the Oh, where was that? Well, I don't know where the photo on the scopolamine or whatever that scopolamine or what the heck is that thing? It's this drug right here. So you need to give them the idea that you've been sending your friends WhatsApp messages. Well, no. First, let's just stick with the strategy. Then I'll go into the tactics. Okay, so tracing and tracking. You need to. It could be their work, etc. I think you know what I'm talking about there. Convey that you're a difficult target, and that can be done in a lot of different ways. But I think you understand basically the idea, right? They'll pass you up. They'll go on to the next guy. You know, if you hint at the fact that, whoa, you know, at my apartment or at our hotel, you could be meeting the first time with her and just hint at the fact, oh yeah, maybe we could make a copy of your ID now. Or when you come back, they're going to ask you for ID. They'll even make a copy of your ID. So as soon as the potential victimizer understands that, well, hey, it's not just going to be checking your ID at the door, right? It's in one eye, out the other, because they're not going to remember your face just from seeing it once on an ID. No, they're going to make a copy of it, right? Even if it's not the case, even if that's not completely true, although there's no reason why not, to do it, to put that in their mind, and it will shake off a lot of them, right? Now, avoid bar dating. I mean, this, with the apps, Badoo, Tinder, and the whole deal these days, you don't have to meet chicks in bars, although I believe it can be very good to do that for young people who are kind of in that scene, right? I think that there can be virtues in the bar dating aspect without any question, because the alcohol, for good or for bad, you know, alcohol is probably the source of tremendous amount of evils in this world, but it does break the ice between people, okay? And only a fool would argue that women are not more likely to get involved with you and start talking with you and go further than that when they've been drinking and dancing, etc. There's no question that the odds go up. So I'm not discounting that. I will say I don't do it. I can't stand the loud noise of this, that, and blah blah, and you know, and there's no need for it. I mean, I won't say there's no need for it. I'm just saying that with these days with the app, it's not like 20 years ago when I was in Rio and we had to do that. I mean, it was actually really hard back then. Okay, so yeah. So now another thing you may not be able to, now on D here, it's better if you choose them as opposed to them choosing you. Now, male-female dynamics are such that I think it's reasonable to say that women in general like to be the ones who choose you. And a lot of times they do, because of their psychological sense of personality dynamics, etc., that oftentimes it is women who kind of decide, well, I want this guy. And you know, we apply to, 50 different jobs, right? We apply to 50 different women, and we think, oh, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one. But we actually don't know if psychologically we're a good fit. But women tend to have more emotional intelligence than men. Certainly not math. They're not better at logic. They're not better in the work world. We obviously know that. And they're not, real high producers when it comes to engineering or accounting or law or medicine or anything. I'm not saying that, obviously. Because that's where, we're supposed to be doing, right? And that's actually what we're good at, and they're not. So usually. So, they will probably be, this may not, so at any rate, this is not always really that possible. So how about the tactics? All right. One thing that comes to mind is, this idea of the honeypot. Because if you, there is, may be inevitable that you're in the apartment with her, and you have to go into the next room and use the bathroom or something like that, or you need to go downstairs, or, oh, wait a minute, you're spending the night with her, she's spending the night with you, and you've got to go quickly to the grocery store. What are you going to say? I don't trust you at all. Wait outside of my apartment. So, decoy. Here's what you do. In programming, this is very common to set up a place to lure in a thief, but it's really not. There's nothing of value there. Maybe it looks like it's something very valuable, but you use it to track and capture the thief himself. So what do? You take some expired credit cards. I have them. And some cash. You could even make it as much as $200. Take, $200, and then some local currency, maybe even $100 worth of local currency. A couple other things that look like they're of value. Maybe you've got a ring or a this or a that. A couple of documents. They could be fake or anything like that. Something you're not worried about losing. Then you stick that in a container or in an envelope or just in something, and you don't really hide it. You put it in the top sock drawer or some drawer, and you kind of make it look like it's been obscured. So they find this thing, right? If you leave and they're going to steal from you, they find this thing, right? I mean, this applies across the board. This also works to save yourself against some other situation where you potentially could be the victim of theft. And then they think they've hit the jackpot, but no. You've got your locking suitcase, which I have. I have a suitcase that locks. It has 2 locks. And, you'd have to bang around on it and slam and pull and push to get in there. You keep your real valuables in there, right? And so they find the honeypot and they think, well, there's no use me rummaging through this whole place because I've found the goods. Right? I found the goods. If you have an expired passport, stick that in there too, right? If you're a long-term traveler, the way I am, and you've traveled a lot, I have a good 2 expired passports, right? And you could stick that in there and they may not notice that there's a hole punched in it, right? And because they're just not looking that closely, or it's, they might not be sure. So that's an idea. Now, there are 2 types of honeypots. The other one could be this. What you do is, with your girlfriend, I've got a spot where I always leave out a bunch of change and little cash just because I need to come in and out, and I drop the change there. Well, one day, what you do is you count up an exact amount and you leave it there, but it's always kind of messy and disorganized such that they think that they could get away from stealing it, or they think you're not really keeping track of it, and you act in a way that would lead them to believe that you don't keep track of it. But in reality, you do. You know exactly what's there. Maybe it's $77 or something like that, and it's jumbled and disorganized bunch of their local currency or something, and it's just there. Well, what you do is you leave the room for a minute, make it available such that they have the opportunity to just kind of snag up a little. And then after they've gone on that particular day and before she comes back for your next date or whatever, you count it. You count it, right? To find out whether or not she's stolen anything. Because if she's really up to no good, she probably she may well take that opportunity and think she can get away with stealing just 15, because to them it's a lot of money and you can catch the thief in advance. Now just a moment here. So I think I've mentioned this. Now, I guess one idea is here it is. This guy was a victim of scopolamine, or whatever that is. I guess the idea, this is the one main thing you want to be concerned with, right? And so, because there are serious consequences to this, there are serious consequences. So I think letting them know that your friend, maybe, you've sent your friend their picture, you have their phone number, you say that, hey, your picture is so cool, I shared it with my friend. Even if you didn't, you tell them that you did. You've got their WhatsApp account, and so you're sending a signal to them that they will be traceable. Hopefully, you could go to a social media profile. I mean, that's great. If she's got a social media profile and with her and pictures and family and the whole deal, she's probably not one of these girls that's going to use that dragon's breath, that scopolamine, or whatever it is, etc. Now, here's an example. I had one girl I recently dated. I could see in her WhatsApp that, she worked for this company that sold motorbikes. And they had a website, and there was a picture of her involved in her work duties, and it was the same motorbikes with the same logo. So I know, right? At that point, I know it's fine. Right? So what's my normal dating recipe? What do I do? I go to WhatsApp. Well, first, on Tinder or Badoo or wherever it is, I get their WhatsApp number. Okay? Now, I like Bumble. And I also like Badoo because you can start sending voice messages right away. When you send them voice messages, that inspires trust from them, right? Which is a separate question, not the topic of this video. But anyways, then after I do that, I arrange to meet them in a shopping mall. Now, this recently, I met my favorite girlfriend from Cartagena who dumped me. I was kind of sad. I didn't like it. But, it happens. And I actually met her in this very shopping mall. And I used to go here and visit her quite a few times. So I will arrange to meet them at a shopping mall, perhaps near them. A lot of times it's hard for them to get places. They're nervous. They're uncertain whether you'll pay the taxi. I think the best strategy is to just arrange for meet them at a shopping mall near them. Okay? Because a shopping mall is safe for you. Let's see some of the things here. I want to show you what I mean. This one, yeah, here we go. So I was living in Cielo Mar, over in here, right? And I was also living in Boca Grande, but I come way down here to Castellana, right down here to Centro Comercial La Castellana, because my girlfriend lived right down around here, and but later she would come up to these malls here. But the first time, I think it's a good thing to do it that way, right? And then you get to know them, you see where they are, you're just exchanging pictures, and that's what I usually do. And then you take it from there, right? And I don't go way out of my way to send photos of girlfriends to my friends. Sometimes I do. And so it'll be true when I say to them, "Oh, I've sent it to my friend," and because the minute they know there's a big trail and clear photos of them and photos of you and them together, you can do a quick selfie. I think sometimes they do that too for their own safety. But when you do that, boy, it is gonna put off a lot of criminals. If you're sitting at 11:30 on a Tuesday at a shopping mall, or maybe it's just 5 o'clock after they've gotten off work. I love to meet them on their day. Maybe their day off is on a Thursday. Great. I go down to the shopping mall. You can see this is a huge one. I mean, they've really It's a great shopping mall. It's a people shopping. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Anyways, I think that is a great way. You take a selfie with them on a Thursday at 11:30, and you let them know that you're transmitting these photos around. That is going to scare a heck of a lot of them off, right? It really is, because if you've got a really good photo of them, then I believe that there are a lot of these. There's this guy. There's a lot of these situations. There's this guy, and then there was another guy. Oh, this one. Now this guy, I watched this video, and they didn't have a good camera shot of the girl. I looked at the camera thing. Maybe it was this one or another one of these videos. I don't remember which one, but there were some of them where there was no good picture. At no point did you have one really strong, good facial shot of this chick who gave them the drugs. I mean, that's no good. How are you going to identify them? Criminals don't want to be identified. So I think that is the first step that is going to take 90% of them out of the game, right? They're not going to look at you as a victim. They're going to go to the next one. The red light's going to come on, and they're not going to do it. So if you avoid all these troubles, if you avoid all these danger spots in advance, I think that takes 90% of the problem out of it. Okay? And then the next is you use some kind of honeypot strategy where you could also use some honeypot strategy where you tell them in some way. You could also tell them, oh, I never keep cards at my home. Now that's not the honeypot, but it's what was that? Yeah, what you could. I don't want to miss that. That was an idea. I didn't put it in the correct order, but it came to mind. I don't want to miss it, and that's this. You could, on your first date or your second date, you could insinuate to them that, well, I've watched these YouTube videos about people who get robbed or whatever, but it doesn't matter to me because I don't keep any cash there, or I don't have cards, or in advance, there's a lock on my credit card, or my banks don't allow more than $200 out of the ATM. You throw out these signals that maybe there's no light at the end of the tunnel, right? They're taking a risk by engaging in this. I mean, like 5-year jail time. And if they think that there isn't, if there isn't some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and them victimizing you is the challenge, they might it's not worth it. They're going to move to the next one. Right? They're going to move to the next one. So, at any rate, if you generally just avoid these situations where you haven't identified them well, and they don't know that they're going to be trackable, they're going to be traceable. You've got a Tinder account, you've got a WhatsApp account, you've got a photo. You've got a WhatsApp account, and you've got a phone number, and you've got photos going back and forth, and you've got them at a shopping mall with a selfie with them. If you're really unsure, you could say, hey, look, I'm sending a photo of us together, photo of you to my friend. Just tell your friend, hey, I'm going to send you some bullshit photo, ignore it. And she's going to, that's going to throw them off. That's going to throw them off, right? So again, final conclusion, I've never had any problem dating safety issues in Cartagena or Barranquilla, and I've never been a victim of any of that stuff. But I think it's because, and I've got good judgment, because if you're not drinking and you're not out in those situations, your wits are always about you, and on the front end, I have already mitigated so many risks, right? So if you do that, you should be okay. Okay, guys, have a good one.